Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery Smart Money Alliance. It is Thursday morning, July 23rd, 7:59 a.m. Central. Certainly nowhere else I'd rather be than right here with you talking about a very important topic. So let's step back for a little bit and talk about where we're going from a big picture into the specific message, which I think you'll find and agree with me, it's very impactful. So we're all about improving financial literacy. We know that through the IIMFL, the Institute for Improved Minority Financial Literacy, we have three different categories of curriculum. We have the youth-based, the adult-based, and the small business-based. We know that it's composed of award-winning curriculum, speaker's notes, handouts, PowerPoints, and in most cases, trainer modules, and all available to you for free. As long as you all have done the background check and did the little DocuSign to say that you wanted to be one of our instructors, one of our educators, you should already be plugged into all of that. So what we're talking about today isn't a change. It's just, frankly, creative ways of packaging the available educational modules that we have to make it even more attractive to key influencers / hosts and ultimately to the participants. So that's the big picture. Let's talk about the packaging today, because earlier this week we talked about packaging for how to start a business. We had 4 modules that could be taught in person or online, each about an hour in duration. Could be taught all at one block, but most often would have been taught once a week for 4 consecutive weeks, where you met with as a financial literacy educator, you're meeting with the participants between each session to help them confirm understanding and apply. So we're not going to go back and be redundant off of that training. You can listen to that at your convenience if you haven't already. Today, we're talking about a different aggregation of 4 modules, and this one falls within the sphere of adult learning. So the prior one was specifically on the small business category. Now we're going to be talking about from the adult category. The way that we've decided to offer this block or this curriculum, as you see here on the screen with the shared email, is that we're going to call it a financial wellness certification. Well, why is that? Well, number one, it's some really great information, and we're going to go through that in detail. It's very much needed. And the certification gives a carrot or a reward for the participant starting and completing that process. And that's what we want. We want to motivate people to learn these principles, improve their lives, improve their financial literacy, and to implement. And so with that, let's talk about what the big deal is. So by offering this as a package, and I'll show it to you again in a moment, it was sent as an attachment this morning. But by packaging it as a financial wellness certification, that's going to really get the ear, to get the interest, to get the antenna up of key influencers. And that's typically how we want to teach, right? By working with key influencers, they have a sphere of influence, people. A church has a congregation, an apartment complex has its residents, and so forth. So whenever possible, we're not dependent upon that, but whenever possible, we want to work through key influencers to educate, because they're going to provide us easier access to large numbers of people. So there's number one. Number two, it is flexible. You can teach this in person if that's your preference and if your circumstances in your community allow for it, or it can be taught online. That's your choice. Very practical information. There's no blowing smoke. There's no fuzziness, and I'll go through in more detail what we're going to cover in those 4 lessons. And so again, once they complete it, they earn their certification, something to hang on the wall, a physical certification certificate to show, hey, I've completed this. For some people, that is very important motivation. You may look at that and say, people should just want to do this because it's going to better their lives. Well, that's fine. But if we can offer them a carrot or an incentive or a motivational instrument to start and complete the process, that's wonderful for everyone. Now, it's awesome for you, and I'll defend this in great specifics when we go through the flyer in just a moment. But if you teach this class, which of course there's no cost to be a financial literacy educator, the training, the support, the tools are all free, so don't worry about that. But the bottom line is this will provide a mechanism to build your team. And you might say, well, wait, this is not about recruitment. This is about teaching this curriculum. Well, that's right. We're going to be talking about financial wellness. What is crucial? What is the number one most important variable when it comes to financial wellness? And it's true on the business side too. It's cash flow, right? If you don't have adequate cash flow, you're not going to be able to save. If you don't have adequate cash flow, you're not going to be able to maintain good credit. If the cash flow is king, and if you listen to Bloomberg or read the Wall Street Journal, you'll see from the business environment, that's what businesses are focused on: liquidity, cash. Well, we need to also help individuals understand they're kind of running their own little economy in their house, whether it's just them or them plus others. And so we have to have positive cash flow. And that's part of what we can help them with. Because if they're not earning enough doing what they want to do, and if they don't have another plan of how to generate more income to meet their goals, then one option is for them to become one of your educators. And then obviously you're going to generate an incredible amount of cash flow from this, because we're not just teaching, we're helping them implement. More on that in just a moment. Well, why is this needed? And I could have loaded a bunch of facts and figures, because there's no shortage of those. But just simply put, the financial well-being of African Americans and most minority populations lag that of the U.S. population as a whole, and whites in particular. The reason for these gaps is complex, but one area of importance is addressing them is increased financial literacy. So this is just at the heart of what we can do to economically empower minority populations and underserved populations. This is it. This is hitting the nail on the head. It doesn't get any better than this. Now, secondly, and I don't want to go too deep in the amount of time we have, but as highlighted in number 2, often teaching and talking isn't enough to change behaviors. So whether it be stopping smoking or losing weight or eating healthier or getting more physically active or improving our financial wellness, it's a change, right? We have to do things differently than we used to do. And it's very hard to do that on your own. And so that's what we're doing. You and I, our team, there's so many of us on the call today, the Zoom. We've got Angela and Annette and Barry and Brian and Bruce and Charlotte and Kwong, and Dion and James and John and Joseph and Linda and LJ and Monique and Peggy and Peter and so many others. That's what we're here to do, is to walk arm in arm with these individuals, educate them, but that's not enough. We need to help them implement. Now, to give you a little more deeper background, and you can look this up, there is a book called Changing for Good, and it was developed by Dr. Prochaska, Prochaska, and he was a professor researcher at the University of Rhode Island, I believe. I think he's retired now, but he studied behavioral change. What is it that it takes to help people to move from their current state to a better state? And in many cases, part of that is having a system of support and accountability. That's why, I mean, we could all just go Google, hey, you should save more money. No one's surprised by that. Hey, you should have better credit if your credit's not ideal. We know the concept, but few of us integrate that because we often don't have a plan and we don't have the support to implement that plan. That's where we come in. That's what makes the difference of what we're doing versus just, oh, go Google how to improve your financial well-being. So of course, we're on this webinar right now. We just need to get your background checked. Most of you have done that, but if not, need to do that. And then we have leadership roles. So let me pause the share for a second. And what I want to do then is bring up the flyer and have more of a concentrated discussion on it now that we've covered the background. So stand by here and we'll get that pulled up. Okay, so we should all see it. It's the same format, same template, if you will, that we used for the prior training, which was on the, well, we can look at it here, how to start a small business. But now we're talking about the financial wellness certification. And of course, we can change the co-branding, and if the church or the chamber or the apartment complex or the organization wants to co-brand with us, we can do that. So in this case, again, we're focused on a sequence of 4 topics. It doesn't have to be 4 if you wanted to do something different, but this specific certification is based upon a specific 4 topics that are part of the curriculum that you already have access to. So this isn't, frankly, something new. It's just a different way to package it. Now, of course, the dates and the times would be picked by you and the host, or if you're just doing it on your own by yourself. It could be taught all in one session, but I think that's too much. And we really need to be able to teach and then meet with the participants individually to apply and then teach the next week. Now, of course, this says July 27th twice. That was an administrative error. But if someone sees that and say, oh, these times don't match up, and you say, that's exactly right. Let's set up your schedule, pivot it. But essentially, normally it's 4 consecutive weeks. All right, so we start with your income and expenses. And again, it's a little bit difficult because people have different starting points, but I think this will be interesting to all. And we talk about how to track and understand income, which is, of course, money coming in, and expenses. And that's really where we need to start. I don't think anyone gets excited over having a household budget, but we do need to create one. Even if we don't want to maintain one, we need to create one and see where we're at. Because what's true, and we've talked about this before, most Americans spend everything that they bring in. Now, there's an alarming number of Americans that have a tremendous decline, right? I think it was another 1.4 million Americans filed unemployment this past week. The extra $600 a week unemployment subsidy is scheduled to end here soon. So, there's at least 1.4 million people that need this right now, new from even last week. But the bottom line is we need to understand our income that's coming in and our expenses going out. And then we start to look at, well, what are some things that we could do to increase income? Now, of course, we could always sit down and say, why don't we buy the generic bread instead of the brand name? But we're going to spend less time worrying about tweaking expenses, which is painful and uncomfortable and probably not going to get us to where we need to be, versus the other side, which is what can we do to generate more income? And of course, that could be entrepreneurship. That maybe they want to do something on the side, or they want to get one of these side gigs that are popular, DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, what have you. But of course, they may also want to consider becoming an educator on your team. So we teach the concepts in class, and then you'll schedule and meet with them in person or individually, but individually, rather be in person, online, or telephonically before the second class. Then a week later, we get back together, and the concept is you need to pay yourself first. When it comes to saving money, very few people will be so disciplined to wait until the end of the paycheck, quote unquote, see what's left and set money aside. It doesn't work. That's why, if you have a 401k through work, what do? They do payroll deductions, so it comes off the top, right? Because if we have less to work with during the pay period, that's a much more sustainable strategy of saving, taking the money off the top rather than waiting to the end of the pay period to see what's left to set aside. And again, there's going to be some people that are in the circumstance, they just don't have enough money coming in. Saving money is not possible, or at least preferable at this time. Well, okay, then we've got to go to the other side of the equation. Then we need to get serious about adding some revenue. Okay, so paying yourself first, it would be the second week. Learn about creative ways, because there's not just one way to save money. There's different ways to save money. Some have a better return than others. Some have more risk than others. But we need to have an emergency fund, don't we? Every American, every person should have an emergency fund. And that would start with a little bit, and it needs to grow eventually. So we have 3 to 6 months of emergency funds. A 401k retirement accounts aren't meant for that. That's not a good vehicle, because if you have an emergency, you need to access it, then you're paying penalties. So we're going to help them understand concepts of saving money, short-term, medium-term, long-term, for expected and unexpected expenses. And we're going to have to teach some of the key concepts that they probably have not been taught before. How does compounding interest work, and why is it so important? What is the rule of 72, and so forth? So then 1 week later, we come back and we teach about credit. What we want to do is wean people off of going to Lexington Law or paying for credit repair, and instead understand how the credit system works. They can do just about anything that these fee-based services can do. And now let's set that money aside. If they were to put an extra $100 a month into their smart money plan, and we help extrapolate that out and show them how much that will grow because of compounding interest through now going forward, that could equate to a massive impact to their financial well-being, their retirement, and so forth. So improving credit is week 3, and week 4 is a broader topic on building your financial future. We need them to understand what assets and liabilities are and net worth. And I'm fine if you want to challenge me on this, but I've been doing this too long. I'll tell you that the average person doesn't understand these concepts. I know that when we've been doing personal financial statements for small business owners, who probably are even more sophisticated in general than the normal person, they often cannot calculate their net worth. So, and we have a lot of you that help clients, and the PFS's personal financial statements still come in all jacked up. We've got to help people understand that, because that's really where you are. If you had a dashboard of your financial life, what would be the different gauges on it? Well, you'd have one gauge of what is your credit score. You'd have another gauge of how much cash do you have on hand. You'd have another gauge of what's my net worth. And so people need to understand how it's calculated and why they should have their eye on that target. And then also, I ask you to really consider, we have to help people understand that we need to have marketable skills to maintain stability and employment. You see, so many people will get laid off from a given job. Maybe they liked, maybe they didn't, but they don't have a skill set of what's needed in the marketplace to go get reemployed. And I would argue one of the most marketable skill sets someone can have is a licensure. You can become a licensed nurse. You can become a licensed realtor. You can also become what? A licensed insurance agent. And so that plays in. So again, very similar to the 4-week class on starting a small business. So we're going to teach once a week, and then between each session, we're going to meet with them. So specifically after this first session, we'll meet with them virtually or in person and put together do the financial needs analysis. So we're gathering information. We have a specific form that we use for that. You've probably seen that before. We had a training on it this past Saturday. And then they come to class the next time. And then after that, then what we're going to do is come back with some recommendations based upon the data that we gathered from the financial needs analysis and put together a smart money plan for them. And then they're going to come back with credit. Now I realize, and Monique mentioned, there are some of you that offer credit restoration services, and that's fine if you want to do that. Obviously, you're going to alter how you address this a little bit. You could even take that, you could put without overpaying third parties or what have you, but you can edit this. We'll provide this in an editable fashion, because we don't want to be harming your revenue streams. And then we come back for the 4th week of building your financial future. So tagline, free webinar series to earn a financial wellness certification, helping them take control of their money, free 4-part series. And again, it's, if you study online businesses, there's a concept called freemium. Freemium, not premium, not free, but freemium. And in many cases, I don't know if you've ever downloaded an app on your phone or your iPad and it's free, but then if you want to do more, you can have in-app purchases. Well, you could argue that this is similar to that approach. This training is free. We are not charging them to attend this training, and that's going to get hosts excited and welcoming you in. Of course, it's award-winning curriculum as well. And then we're going to work with them outside of class to apply what they've learned. And then that's kind of where the in-app purchases could occur. They could become a client, and most of them will, and put together a smart money plan with you, an properly designed index universal life policy that's going to generate hundreds or even thousands of dollars of commission. Not because the client has to pay you anything. That's the beauty of this model. The client is never writing you a check. They don't have to pay you anything. You get paid by Nationwide Insurance for bringing them clients. And then many of the folks are going to have cash problems. Most Americans have cash problems. And so it may be that some of them would be interested also in becoming a financial literacy educator and teaching. Well, what happens? Now you give them your code. They are in your hierarchy. We together work to train them and support them. They're out improving financial literacy, and what's happening? Cha-ching, you're getting override income. So again, a free 4-part series. After each class, one of our educators is going to conduct a one-on-one with them. Again, it could be in person, online, or telephonic, and they'll receive the certification from us. We'll produce the certification and mail it to them, so they'll get a physical certification. Okay, so now I want to get your questions, comments, feedback on this, because I'm so excited about this. I think it's the best thing since sliced bread, but I'm here to get your feedback. So Will, Warren, Vincent, TC, Travis, Tracy, Tony, all of you, let's hear what your comments or feedback are in going and implementing this. Because again, we can keep bringing the tools and the training and support, but it doesn't matter if you don't go implement. If you don't either get an Eventbrite, which is free, and set up a series of 4 classes and start teaching it to the general public, and or if you don't, start going to key influencers and educating them about this is now available. I'm just telling you, it's bulletproof. Tell me an objection that you think a host could have. It's free, number 1. Number 2, it's needed. Number 3, this curriculum was developed by the FDIC and the SBA. It is bulletproof. There's no one that's going to come back and say there's something wrong with what we're teaching. And then we're taking our time to sit down with them and help, virtually or in person, to reiterate what they've learned, answer questions, and help them implement. Well, might they buy something from us? Might they actually start a savings plan, a smart money plan? Well, they might. And we hope that they will, right? Because you make money off of it, but it's helping them accomplish their goals. That's why banks have little tables at community fairs, because they hope that you'll come open a bank account with them, right? That's kind of the way that business or commerce works. All right, so Peggy says she thinks it's fantastic. Thank you, Peggy. She's a guest on a radio show tomorrow, and we'll discuss it. Absolutely. And I've shared with you all, I'm starting my radio show Saturday, August 1st, and this will be a big part of it. It'll be what I'll educate the listening audience to motivate them to get engaged, and I'll also actively solicit hosts. I'll be pleading with the churches and the chambers and the business organizations to take an active role in helping improve the financial literacy of their sphere of influence, and this is a great way. Now, if they deal with small businesses, then it's going to be more of this curriculum. Remember, we can mix and match any of those modules. There's almost like 30 different training modules that, again, you have the PowerPoints for, speaker's notes, handouts, and there's trainer on most of them. So, we can mix this up. Maybe you want to work with existing businesses, not startup businesses. So we just change the title a little bit, trade out some of the lessons, and you're good to go. So there's tremendous flexibility. We'll periodically keep coming back and offering some ideas of packaging like we're doing today. But you're probably, well, I know you're smarter and you're probably more creative than we are. So you could find other ways to package a number of these classes and take to the marketplace. All right, so James asked, when are the classes available for onboarding nonprofit organizations? Well, I don't think I understand, James. So you're a financial literacy educator, James, and so you're going to go make it happen, right? You're going to maybe take the press release and maybe this flyer and go meet with nonprofits or other key influencers and encourage them to set up the sequence of classes and let them know that you'll teach them in person or online. I don't know how much onboarding there is to that. Now, we're here to support you, but James, if there's something I'm missing, let me know. Peggy, as always, Jennifer, our education coordinator, is our point of contact. So if you need this flyer, now I sent it to everyone that's in our Post Affiliate Pro, but I will make sure that Jennifer has the editable version. It's in Microsoft Word, so it's easy to change, and you can get it from Jennifer and change it up. She says, I think it's fantastic. I'm a guest on a radio show tomorrow. Great, great, great. Teresa, thank you for your kind words. Okay, so I want more feedback, please. So we're here to put our heads together to figure out what can we do to go solve the problem. And it's that we have an opportunity to improve financial literacy. And so this is an example of it. So let me know, Linda and LJ and Regina and Peter and Ricky, those of you that are not responding, what are your thoughts? We're not looking for a pat on the back, but we're saying, hey, is this something that you think that you can take to your local market? Will you do that? When will you do that? What can we do to help you do that? Okay, let's see here. Tracy says, when the financial literacy educators trained on the class material, you'll be able to update. Oh, of course. Yeah, you can get the editable version of these flyers right now, Tracy. You'll just email Jennifer and she can get it to you. That's not a problem. I think this will work fine as a sample to show the prospective host, but obviously you wouldn't want to implement with this because it's not going to match up correctly. Monique thinks that the certification's a good idea. It's something for the consumer to work towards, a sense of accomplishment. And I agree. And we could even go over here and add a certification to each of the curriculum. And we may do that. So we have a number of different certificates. Obviously, we want to provide valuable knowledge. And we also want to do that in a model in which that you can meet with them at least twice, one-on-one. So if you were to ever package less than 3 courses, you're going to really shortchange yourself, because it's not just teaching them in a group. You're going to want to get with them individually after the first session to do the financial needs analysis questionnaire. And then you'll want to meet with them after the second session to present recommendations and most likely close them on an IUL. All right, very good. Anyone else have questions, comments, concerns? LJ, says this is great. Yep, different path, thank you. And again, we know, let's see, here's the press release that we launched back, and it's on our IMFL website. So again, there's a whole bunch of different topics for adults, and a whole bunch of different topics that are turnkey and ready for you. PowerPoint, speakers notes, handouts, train the trainer, and most of them on small businesses. And so again, we can be creative and package these however you want. This is just an example of how we've done it. All right, thank you, LJ, for your kind words. Angela says she started to train the trainer. It's awesome. She's teaming up with a teacher to teach adults in high school. Very good. Very good. Vincent mentions going to daycare centers is a great way to reach minority families. That's a great idea. And keep in mind, I don't want to confuse this, but when you're talking to the host, you can put them in the revenue stream, can't you? So for instance, if it's a pastor, you can let them know, hey, we can do a revenue share with you. Let's go ahead and get a background check done on you. And then what we'll do is we'll split the revenue 50-50 that comes from the class. And again, you wouldn't want to have that discussion with all hosts, but if you determine that that host would be interested or might be interested in a revenue split. So how would that work? So let's say, we'll just use a simple example. So let's say we go to a church and we go to the pastor and say, hey, wouldn't it be great to do this? And they say, oh yeah, my congregation needs it, would benefit from it. Excellent. And so then if your gut instinct is that that pastor might be interested in sharing in the revenue, either for his or her personal benefit or that of the church, then you would just simply have them do a background check. And normally, you don't have to do it this way, but normally then what you would do is all the policies written, all the smart money plans, as we call them, IULs, normally, and usually they're going to be what we call that silent partner. We talked about earlier this week. They're usually not going to want to be working with their congregation and writing the policies. So you just do a 50-50 split with them. And so they earn 50% of the commissions, you earn 50. But what you have to remember is you're still earning an override on their 50%. So you're making more than 50%. But again, you'll have to use some discretion. Some hosts will be all over that. But if you're going to the library, for example, that's the last thing in the world you would do is go offer a city official, a public official, some sort of revenue share, right? So you have to use some discretion on that. But in many cases, sharing revenue with the host will seal the deal. Now you might say, well, I don't know that they would really be happy knowing that we're going to help the clients set up a smart money plan. You know, maybe they just want the free education. Well, that doesn't serve any purpose, right? The information is already out there circulating. What we need to do is teach them and help them implement. And it's not like a small business owner asks a financial service to come in and set up a 401k for his or her employees and say, well, I don't want you to be paid for that. I just want you to set up the 401k and work for free. Of course not. That's not the way that financial services work. So if you just get in that mindset, sure, we will generate money from this. We'll generate on average $10,000 from every class and I mean set of 4 that you teach. So in a month's time, you should generate $10,000 from this, right? But we don't have to be embarrassed about that. That's how we earn our income. And in fact, we can help others do the same. Robert is correct. Yeah. So if they're going to do a 50-50 split off of revenue that's generated from insurance or financial services, they would need to be licensed too. But you want them to do that. You want to be out actively looking for individuals and professionals to become financial literacy educators in your team to help them get licensed, because some of them will just pick it up on their own and run without you. Are they cutting you out? Absolutely not. Now they're out there just working and generating exposures and conversions and income for you that you have to put no effort or energy into. So you're right, Robert. They will need to become licensed to share in that. That's correct. Tracy's asking about the board stipend, and that's a great point. We have not yet had our first board meeting. We're still getting quite a few of the financial literacy educator DocuSigns back, which on the back of that has the form, do you want to be a board member or not, which committees. And so here in August, then the board will start meeting, and then the board can decide what type of stipend they want to pay to the board members. Right now, there is none, but the board may decide to do that. And I'm on the board too, so if you all decide to give us all a stipend, I would very much appreciate it because I'm working for free. Okay, Teresa says she sees in the press release that you can put in your own information. Well, of course, yeah. So again, Jennifer, our education coordinator, has the editable version of this. Well, she will have it. She doesn't have it yet, but she will have it. You can get it, and then of course you can edit it along with your information. That is right. Dion mentions local areas should be a focus on home ownership. You're right, and there is a lesson. Oh, let's go over here. There is a lesson on making housing decisions, 2 lessons, and buying a home. What I would say, Dion, if that's the angle, and I don't mean that negatively, but if that's the angle that you want to work, we might want to develop a different certification curriculum that's based on home buying. And so certainly credit reports and scores, I think, would be one of the 4 topics. Making housing decisions would be one. Buying a home would be one. And we could decide what other 4th module we want to put in. But I think that's great. And that's great creativity, Dion. There's different target audiences that we might want to mix and match some of these topics with to be most relevant to them. That is perfect. Monique's asked, is there a way to implement a first-time home buyer program that issues a grant towards a down payment to close? Absolutely. There are a number of communities and I think maybe even states, I'm not an expert in this, that have first-time home buyers incentives. And so what we could do is promote the curriculum and then help them get plugged into that as part of that. So that would be strong. And of course, buying a home offers an opportunity to have a policy that would serve to cover the mortgage. Because if you have a family, if there's anyone other than yourself, you obviously wouldn't want them to become homeless if you died and they were no longer able to support the mortgage payment. So that's another reason to build a smart money plan. That is excellent. Peggy's asking about doing a certification model for this, and absolutely we can. That's easy to do. Let's see. Regina says, I'm committed to educating my community and abroad. It's critical and necessary subject matter that has been avoided for many years. It's a must for the next generation to come. Fully agree with you, Regina. Fully agree with you. All right. Well, so we're going to wrap it up. We'll summarize what we've covered, next steps, and then we'll move on our day. So there's a bunch of different lessons you all have access to. We've packaged 4 of them as a financial wellness certification. You can get this in editable format from Jennifer. And ultimately what we need to do is go implement. There's the need, there's a dramatic need, and you can help people through educating them, helping them grow and protect their money. And also a lot of them just need help with cash flow, and they can very naturally become part of your team. So with that, the ball's in your court. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Have a good day.